welcome to Got the Fire, where we feature really interesting people who are doing cool things in Indianapolis, for Indianapolis, and in a lot of cases like today, way beyond Indianapolis. I'm particularly excited about our guest today because they work passionately in the food space, but also specifically plant-based food. And that is a cause near and dear to my heart. So please welcome Sonja and Alex Overhiser.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It's just so amazing that you're right down the street from us, but yet you got a global footprint. They have done so many amazing things. They're the duo, the power duo behind the blog, A Couple of Cooks, the cookbook, which I'll brought my own personal copy. Pretty simple cooking. I'm hoping you'll sign it. Sonja is also the founder of Indy Women in Food, which unites women in Indianapolis and the food industry. So thank you so much. I'm so excited. And thank you to our producer for getting us Hubbard and Craven's coffee.
Right?
Today.
Yeah,
So cheers
thank
to you. Normally we have some harder stuff, but we're taking it easy today. So I thought we could talk today about just better understanding plant food in general, but plant-based food. And let me start with you. What is the passion that has driven you to do all of this, to make such a difference to so many people?
So we started because we fell in love with food. I mean, that was really where it began. We weren't thinking about business. We weren't thinking about recipes. We just started cooking, and we read a book by Mark Bittman called Food Matters. It was probably 10, 12 years ago now. And he talks about how eating more plants is just good in a lot of different ways. Not necessarily go all vegetarian, all vegan, but just get more plants in your diet.
So that's been the passion. And tell me a bit about the journey. You know, it's a short show, so very quickly, the journey and also the community that's emerged around your passion.
Sure, yeah. So we started cooking in 2008, 2009 together. We got married and we were like, we need to make food for our friends. And so community is really where cooking started for us. We were just kind of eating junky trash food. Frozen food, takeout
Hot
food,
Pockets, breakfast cereal for dinner.
And then we started having friends over for dinner, and we realized we couldn't serve that food, and so we decided to open up some cookbooks, and we just realized that food could be a really creative joy, and we're both creative people, and so we kind of took our creative passions and threw them into the food scene, and that's where it started.
And then we also started getting involved in the Indy Winter Farmers Market. And we were just mentioning that's where we met you, Duncan.
Yes.
And so we started going to the market and seeing what local farmers were offering. And at the time, I felt like they were rock stars. I mean, they are rock stars, but I was like, oh my gosh, you grew this? So that was really exciting for us to be able to meet some of the farmers behind the food we were eating. That was something we never grew up with, at least I never grew up with. And met a lot of people in Indianapolis passionate about food. And so we started creating some recipes around what to do with these new things we were buying, and started contributing to the Farmers Market newsletter. And that really helped us to kind of build into the Indianapolis community.
Yeah, I remember seeing you with great interest and diligence examining the produce. You know, it's like, what is this, and all the little facets. But I mean, food, I know that they say this about beer sometimes, but I think for those of us that don't drink beer as often as maybe others do, like, food is the true social glue. Like, you know,
Right.
As you mentioned, you have brought people together around the dining table, and it's an ability and an opportunity to just make time stop and eat and enjoy the food. And sometimes I don't think, as you said, I don't think we think about all that goes into where did that food come from?
Right.
Like, what was the vision when Alex and Sonja decided to make this recipe? And, you know, how does it taste? And let's talk about it. It's like going to a film, right? People, well, not everyone, but some people will talk about a film afterwards, but there's those of us that do that with food, right?
Oh, absolutely. It made me think of a book club that we're in. So we read books with some friends and then discuss it. And you have such a much greater understanding and appreciation for the book after you discuss it with people. And it's exactly the same with food. There are so many parts of that backstory of who grew the food and who brought it to market, and then how do you want to create it into a recipe, who wrote the cookbook that you're reading. So many different facets of simply getting food onto our plates.
I do love it, and I know you all do it too, when there is a story behind the dish. You know, I think the New York Times and our own Indianapolis Monthly, and Indy Dine when it was around. It does the dish, but it's just the dish. Like, what was the inspiration, and
Right.
where did the food come from? Let me ask you this, and this is I think a difficult and meaty question, but why is it important for people to think about their food?
That is a difficult question. It affects so much of our bodies, our health, and the world around us. I mean, it is everything intertwined. And that was why we got so interested in food to start with, was we realized that not only is it about community, our relationships with one another, but it's about our personal health and about the way that we're treating the planet. And so if we care about all of those things, which so many of us do, then it's of utmost importance to really understand, what are we supporting when we buy a certain food? How is it affecting the way that we feel? And how is it going to affect our children and their health?
And what kind of thinking are we putting in our children's heads, right, about food? Is it just, is it just sort of a mac and cheese life, or do we try to get our kids? I struggle with this with my son. It's like, hey, man, there's a lot more beyond chicken tenders and mac and cheese. Unfortunately, even though I fixed the gourmet mac and cheese for my son Enzo, he prefers Annie's. But there's lots of famous politicians that eat that too. So no, thank you for answering that. And I wanted to ask about food justice. I know you all are very into that. And why is it important to you? And what's the tie-in to the Indianapolis community there?
Yeah, I think we think about food justice in a lot of ways. There's like food insecurity, places like Second Helpings and Patachou Foundation that are just trying to give meals to people, but also just awareness of like who's doing things in food. Sonja's super involved in the just kind of diverse scene in Indianapolis that are a lot of people doing things, and can we help promote exciting things that are going on in food?
I am so glad you mentioned Second Helpings and the Patachou Foundation, both doing amazing things in Indianapolis. I've been a long-time supporter of Second Helpings and, of course, Tonic Wall and so on. So that's great. And Sonja, you started Indy, not Indianapolis, Indy,
Right.
Indy Women in Food. Tell us about that. What's the haps with that?
Sure. So my friend Ashley Brooks and I started Indy Women in Food kind of by accident. It was coming out of an event that brought together a lot of women working in food in Indianapolis, and both of us separately thought, we need to do something to continue these connections. There was so much energy in the room, and so we had a mutual friend who heard this from both of us and realized I should put them together. So we got coffee and just kind of dreamed up a way to connect women in food in Indianapolis. So it just started out just as a closed Facebook group where we could meet each other and network and bounce ideas off of each other, and tell each other about our accomplishments and get the word out about things. And it's grown today to also include events. So we have networking potlucks, and then we also have some series of public events. In particular, a diversity series where we have conversations with diverse women working in the food industry in Indianapolis.
That's great. And I heard there's a very popular bowling night too.
There is. So that's a little bit separate from Indy Women in Food. There's some crossover, but that was started by Martha Hoover, a dear friend, who also really wanted to increase just the opportunity to network in Indianapolis with women in food, and why not do it while you're bowling? So I've been a part of that, and it has been just amazing to see the connections between the women.
My experience is that bowling is a highly underrated pastime or preoccupation. I think that we should do more things while bowling.
That's
I've been
a good
telling
point.
Sonja that for like 15 years, and finally it took other women in food to convince her of such things.
He might be a little bitter.
Yeah. I mean, as they say, the great thing in bowling is not to win, but to be there, regardless of whether you participate. So, I guess one last thing. What are your hopes and your vision, for the future, and how does Indianapolis tie into that?
Well, let's see. I mean, we want to just keep working in food personally. We love creating recipes. And so every week we're creating tons of just new recipes, new ways to make vegetables taste delicious, which is our passion. Maybe we'll write another book, maybe not. We'll see how that goes. It's a ton of work to write a book. So, but yeah, we just want to continue to explore food. There's so much to learn about food that you could spend multiple lifetimes learning about it. And so we just hope that we can continue to do that, but also to not just do it for ourselves, but do it for the community and for the planet. That's a big goal of ours for the upcoming years, is to help people understand more about how what we eat affects the planet.
Amazing. One last curveball question. What is your favorite vegetable right now?
Ooh.
Oh man.
I'm gonna go with green beans because they are getting ripe in the garden right now and they are brilliant right off the vine.
Green beans. Are you agree?
I will pick basil.
Is that a
Because
vegetable?
I think so, right? An herb is a vegetable.
It's in the cousin. It's a cousin.
Because it's also in our garden. It makes anything taste amazing.
Thank you so much for watching Got the Fire with Alex and Sonja Overhiser. I am obsessed with your name, by the way, Overhiser. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.